Hey guys, this is Afik. In the last episode, we've set up a login, an integration with our Backend API. We've set up the jwt authentication, and we were able to log into our system and get back a token and store this token in our local storage. Now, a few problems we haven't discussed in the last episode were, one, I didn't show the error in the login page in case we have one. And the other is that right now I'm inside my home page and I would like to log out. I'm not able to do so. And even when I want to go to the login page, I'm not able to do so because I've defined here in my before each interceptor to our router that if we are already logged in and if we have a current user in the store and we are going to the login page, just redirect back to the home page. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to modify our navigation component. This is our header.vue file, and I would like to say that if we have a current user available, I would like to show the name of the user and the option to log out. And if you're not logged in, we can show the login and registration links. We can start by removing the login link. And we're not going to use links anymore. If you want to use links inside VueRouter, you will use their component that's called router link. Okay, this is the one, and you'll pass it a to attribute with the route you want to go to, and you can pass classes, and all the rest will just be propagated down to the a link. It's just a nice wrapper to VueRouter, and essentially it's going to generate an a tag that is going to be rendered inside your Vue app. Problem is that I want to do list item here for login, another one for registration, and then if I already have a user, I want to do a link for customers and another link for logout. And I can use the if-else logic in VueRouter. I can do div, and I want to render this link if we have a user, and if we don't have a user, I can do v-else and render something else in here. But the problem is that we're going to get unnecessary div inside our unordered list item. What we're going to do is use the template tag, and this template tag is not going to be rendered inside our unordered list. It's just going to handle the logic of if-else, and then only what's inside this template is going to be rendered into our component. Okay, so let's do template here, and if we don't have a current user, in this case I would like to have two list items, and the first I'm gonna have a router link. This one is gonna go to the login page, and we'll give it a class. It's a bootstrap class for a navigation link. It's called navLink, and the text is gonna be login. The same thing for register. It's going to go to the register auth, and I know we don't have this route yet. We'll have it. It should be in a separate list item. Let's do this right here. And now we're going to do another template for the v-else, and this is in case we don't have a user logged in. In this case, I would like to have, this is in the case we already have a current user. And here I would like to have a link for all the customers, and I would like to have a drop-down that shows the customer name and a link to log out. Okay, so let's do in here router link, and this one is going to go to /customers. It's going to have the same class. It's going to be nav link, and the text is going to be customers, and then I'll have a list item. This one is going to be a drop-down, and to do drop-downs in Bootstrap, you can give it the same class of navLink and another class for dropdown. Okay, now in here, I'll create an a tag, and this is going to be the reference to our dropdown. So we need to give it an ID. The ID is just going to be, let's say, navbar dropdown. We'll give it two classes of navLink and dropdown toggle. The link is going to go nowhere because it's just a toggle for the drop-down. You're going to have a role of button, area expanded. This one is going to be false. And we're going to have area has pop-up, and this one is going to be true. Oh, that was a long one, sorry about that, but this is how Bootstrap works. In here I'll print my username, so current user.name. This is just in case we're logged in. If we're not logged in, we're not going to get this template rendered. Then I'll create a span in here. We'll give it a class of caret. This is just going to be a nice caret for the dropdown. Next, we'll have a, let's say, a div in here. And this is a dropdown item. So we need to give it a class of dropdown menu. Next, we're going to give it area labeled by. This is going to be the same ID in here. So this one. So once we toggle this one, this is the dropdown that is going to come out. And this is the text we're going to print before we get the dropdown. And under the dropdown, each A tag in here is going to represent one row in the dropdown. I'm going to have one link that goes nowhere. And on click, what I would like to do is prevent the default action. I don't want it to try to look for this tag, but I want it to call the logout function that we'll create in a moment. And then we'll have a class called dropdown item. And the text in here is going to be logout. Sorry, I know it was a long one, but I hope that's all we need to do in here. Okay, next let's create a method for logout. What this is going to do is trigger a mutation in our store. So let's do this store commit, and we'll commit the mutation called logout. And next I would like to send the user to the login page because he just logged out and I don't want him to stay in our home page. So this.router.push, and we are going to log in. Okay, next I want to remind you what we did inside our store for logout. We already made this mutation called logout, and what we're going to do is remove the user key from our local storage. We're going to set the is logged in to false, and we're going to remove the current user. Now once we remove the current user in the header in here, we're going to trigger this template because we don't have a current user, and we're going to see the login and registration links. Now the only thing we need to do here is to take the current user from our store, and the way we do that is we defined a computed value, and this computed value is going to get the name of the variable we want to use inside our Vue component. In our case is current user, so we're going to define a function here called current user, and all it's going to do is return this .store.getters.current user because we already defined a store getter called current user, this one, and it's going to return the state.current user, which is the authenticated user. Okay, so this is all we need to do for our header to work. Okay, so let's test it out in the browser. First, let me cd into my Vue SPA project and do npm run watch. Okay, we don't have any errors, that's great. Let's refresh the page. Okay, something is wrong with the layout in here. It's probably a class that I missed or something. Okay, we shouldn't have the dropdown wrapper to be a nav link. It should be a nav item. Now let's refresh the page, and now it looks much better. And okay, let's see. We are not able to toggle our dropdown. Okay, let's make sure I have all the attributes right in here. And I think we also need data toggle, and this one should be dropdown. Okay, let's try now. Refresh, and now it works. Let's click the logout link, and we're back to the login page. Great. The next step is to show the registration error if we have one. So let's go back to our login Vue component. I would like to get the authentication error from our store. So we'll define another computed value here, and let's call this one auth error. And we're going to do this, return this store getters, and the getter for the authentication error is called auth error. Great, let's do auth error in here. And we'll create a nice div in here. You can use the same one under the submit button. And we're going to render this one only if we have an auth error, because if it's going to be null in the store, this element right here is not going to be rendered. And we'll create a p tag with the class of error. We're going to design this one in a moment, and we'll print in here the auth error. Okay, let's style this one a little bit. Let's do error. This is going to be text align center, and we're going to have a color of red. Simple error. Let's try to refresh now, and let's do test 1 and log in, and voila, wrong email and password. And if you remember, this was under our helpers auth.js. If we have any registration error, we get this one right here, and then we just reject with this one hard-coded. Now we're gonna have another issue, because sometimes when you try to request something from the server, from the API, and your authentication token is not valid anymore, you're gonna get a 401 response error. And we need to figure out a way to handle those unauthenticated responses and send the user back to the login page to log in again. Okay, so in this case, what I want to do is go to the app.js, and right after the router, we can define a thing called Axios Interceptor. We can do axios.interceptors response.use. Now, the first argument is going to be in the case the promise has been resolved, so we don't care about this case. And in the other case is if we have an error. Now what I want to check is if our error.response.status is equal 401. This is the unauthenticated status. In this case, I want to do store.commit logout. And again, we have access to the store because it's defined right here. And we're going to do router.push, and I'm going to send the user to the login page. Now, this file is getting too messy, so let's create another helper file called, let's call this one general. I don't know, I don't have a better name for now. And let's create a function called initialize. This initialize function is going to get the store and the router, and we're going to do those things, the Axios, we gotta have a capital A in here, the Axios and the router before each. We're going to do both of them inside our general.js, and I think we can just import this function here. Let's do import initialize from helpers general. I'm going to use the initialize function right here, and I'm going to send it the store and the router. Okay, let's make sure that it all still works. Let's try something with the wrong credentials and log in, and great, we get the error. Let's try valid credentials, and we're logged in, and we got to the home page. We can log out. Okay, that was it for this episode. In the next one, we're going to create all the customers logic. We'll add a route to view all our customers. We do the integration with our backend API. We do another route for creating a new customer, and we'll create a form to make a new customer. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.